Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I stared at my phone, reading the text message for the third time. "We're too tired from your sister's trip to attend your graduation," Mom had written. Amanda had just returned from 3 weeks touring Europe, all expenses paid by our parents. I was graduating from Harvard in 2 days. I typed back, "Rest well." What they didn't know was that I'd been selected as valedictorian. My speech would be broadcast nationally on C-SPAN. 4 years of being the invisible son, and this was supposed to be my moment. Instead, I'd be standing on that stage alone. Graduation morning arrived with perfect New England weather. The sun filtered through the trees in Harvard Yard, casting dappled shadows across the historic buildings. I adjusted my cap and gown, watching families stream onto campus. Parents carried flowers. Siblings held congratulatory signs. Grandparents moved slowly but proudly toward their seats. I stood alone near Memorial Church, checking my phone one more time. Nothing. No last-minute change of heart. No surprise arrival. Just silence from Philadelphia. My roommate Tyler found me there. His parents were right behind him, his mother already tearing up with pride. She hugged Tyler, then turned to me. "Murray, where's your family?" I forced a smile. They couldn't make it. Work stuff. Tyler's father, a kind man named Robert, who taught high school English, put his hand on my shoulder. "Then you'll sit with us at the reception. No arguments." Tyler's mother, Sarah, insisted on taking photos with me. She positioned herself between Tyler and me, beaming like I was her own son. The kindness made the absence hurt more. The ceremony began with traditional pomp. Thousands of graduates filled the yard. University President Christina Hayes welcomed everyone, spoke about achievement and opportunity, about the responsibilities that came with a Harvard education. Then she introduced me. I walked to the podium, my heart hammering. My speech was titled, "The Invisible Investment." I'd written and rewritten it dozens of times, trying to find the balance between honesty and dignity. I began speaking about students who funded their own education, about those who had no safety net, no family money to fall back on, no parents who could make calls to influential friends. I talked about working 3 jobs during summer breaks, about choosing the dining hall meal plan based on cost rather than preference, about spending holidays on campus because plane tickets home were too expensive. Then I shifted. "Some of us learned early that love comes with conditions," I said. "That your value is measured against a sibling's accomplishments. That being the wrong child means being the invisible child." I didn't name my parents. I didn't need to. I spoke about the pain of achieving something extraordinary and having nobody who shared your blood care enough to witness it. About the specific kind of loneliness that comes from familial indifference rather than absence. My voice stayed steady, but emotion filled every word. When I finished, the silence lasted 3 heartbeats before applause erupted. It wasn't polite, congratulatory clapping. It was thunderous, sustained, emotional. People were standing. Some were crying. After the ceremony, Tyler and his parents took me to lunch at a restaurant in Harvard Square. Sarah kept touching my arm, asking if I was okay. Robert told me my speech was the most powerful thing he'd heard in 30 years of attending graduations. My phone started buzzing around 3 in the afternoon. Twitter notifications, Instagram tags, Facebook messages. I opened Twitter and saw clips of my speech everywhere. Someone had recorded it and posted the video. It was spreading like wildfire. Comments flooded in. "This Harvard valedictorian speaking truth about family neglect has me sobbing." When he talked about being the invisible child, I felt that in my soul. Share this everywhere. This is what real success looks like. News outlets picked it up. Harvard valedictorian's emotional speech about family neglect goes viral. Top graduate speaks truth about conditional love. By evening, the video had 5 million views. Then the calls started. "Mom, Dad, Amanda," over and over. Voicemails piled up. Mom's message. "Murray, why didn't you tell us you were speaking? We would have come. Call me back immediately." Dad's. "What were you thinking? That speech made us look like terrible parents. We need to talk about this. Amanda's. Are you serious right now? Do you know what you've done? People are messaging me horrible things. Call me. I ignored them all. Tyler and I went to a party with our classmates. I tried to enjoy my achievement, but my phone wouldn't stop. By midnight, I had 73 missed calls. The next morning, I was eating breakfast at a cafe when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Professional instinct made me answer. Murray? This is Janet Carlson from Whitman & Associates. My stomach dropped. Whitman & Associates was the prestigious consulting firm where I'd accepted a position starting in August. Janet was a senior partner, someone 3 levels above the recruiter who'd hired me. Good morning, I managed. I saw your speech, she said. Her tone was neutral, unreadable. We need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee? Today? Something in her voice sent warning signals through my brain. This wasn't a congratulatory call. Of course, I said. When and where? I met Janet at a quiet cafe near the Charles River. She was in her early 50s, impeccably dressed in a navy suit, her dark hair pulled into a professional bun. She ordered black coffee and got straight to business. Your speech was powerful, she began, honest and moving. Under different circumstances, I'd be congratulating you without reservation. My chest tightened. Under different circumstances? Janet sighed. Our largest client is Peterson Media Group. Richard Peterson owns the company. He saw your speech last night. This morning, he called our managing partner directly. I waited, already knowing this was going somewhere terrible. Richard Peterson is passionate about family values, traditional structures, generational respect, that whole framework. He found your speech disturbing. He expressed concerns about the firm hiring someone who would publicly attack his own family. The word attack landed like a punch. I didn't attack anyone. I spoke about my experience. I understand that, Janet said, and she sounded genuine. I really do. But Peterson's account is worth $12 million annually. He's threatening to review his contract with us if we proceed with your employment. The cafe suddenly felt too warm. So I'm fired before I even start? Not yet, Janet said carefully. But we need damage control. Fast. Peterson wants to see evidence that you have a functional relationship with your family. He needs reassurance that you're stable, mature, capable of representing the firm. How exactly am I supposed to provide that? Janet leaned forward. Issue a public statement, clarifying that your speech wasn't about your parents specifically. Do a media interview showing family reconciliation. Have your parents appear with you. Demonstrate that they're supportive. Show the world that this was a misunderstanding, that your family relationships are strong. I stared at her. You want me to lie. I want you to manage your public image, she corrected. This is consulting, Murray. Perception matters. Client relationships matter. I like you. I think you'll be excellent at this job. But I need you to fix this situation, or I can't protect your offer. She slid a business card across the table. It belonged to a PR consultant. Call her today. She can help you craft the right message and talk to your parents. Work this out. You have 1 week. After Janet left, I sat alone with cold coffee, trying to process. My moment of honest vulnerability was now a professional liability. My refusal to pretend everything was fine had endangered my career. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail from Mom. I finally listened. Murray, enough of this silent treatment. You've embarrassed this entire family. Amanda is getting hate messages from strangers. Your father's colleagues are asking him uncomfortable questions. You need to fix this immediately. Call me back. No apology. No acknowledgement of missing my graduation. Just anger that I'd made them look bad. I needed to try, though. For my job, I had to try. I texted my parents. Can we meet? I'm coming home to Philadelphia. Mom responded within minutes. Finally, tomorrow at 2. The house. The drive to Philadelphia the next day took 6 hours. I'd grown up in a comfortable suburb, the kind of place where lawns were perfectly maintained and neighbors competed over Christmas decorations. My parents' house was a 4-bedroom colonial with black shutters and a 2-car garage. Amanda's Mercedes was in the driveway. I rang the doorbell, even though I had a key. It felt wrong to just walk in anymore. Dad answered. Donald Murphy was 58, still fit from his gym routine, wearing khakis and a golf shirt even though it was Tuesday afternoon. He was a mid-level executive at Barrett Pharmaceuticals, successful enough but always slightly resentful that he hadn't risen higher. "Come in," he said curtly. The living room was exactly as I remembered. Mom's real estate awards on the mantel, family photos covering the walls, though I noticed the ratio was about 3 of Amanda to everyone that included me. Mom, Barbara, sat on the cream-colored sofa, her arms crossed. Amanda sat beside her, scrolling through her phone. Nobody hugged me. Nobody said congratulations. "Sit," Mom said, gesturing to the chair across from them. Saturday. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mom started. "I've lost 2 clients this week. 2. Because their friends saw that speech, and now they think I'm some kind of monster mother who neglected her brilliant son. Your mother's reputation is everything in real estate," Dad added. "You've damaged her professionally, and people are sending me death threats," Amanda chimed in, looking up from her phone. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She was 25, 2 years older than me, and had lived at home since graduating from a private college our parents paid for entirely. Strangers telling me I'm a spoiled brat, that I don't deserve my parents' love. This is insane, Murray. I took a breath. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was speaking about my experience. Your experience? Mom's voice rose. We gave you everything. We put a roof over your head, food on the table, paid for your expenses until you were 18. You paid for Amanda's college completely, I said quietly. I got nothing. You got scholarships, Dad said. You didn't need our help. Amanda did. That's called being practical. The twisted logic was so familiar, it almost didn't hurt anymore. Almost. Look, I said, trying a different approach. My job offer is in jeopardy because of the publicity. I need to do some damage control. A public statement, maybe a family photo, something showing we're okay. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. We've already spoken to a lawyer, Dad said. Bill Henderson, my college roommate. He specializes in defamation. My blood went cold. Defamation? You implied on national television that we were neglectful parents, Mom said. That's defamatory. Bill thinks we have a strong case. Your speech has caused us measurable financial harm. You're suing me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We're considering it, Dad said, unless you make this right. We want $50,000 for reputational damages. We know you have savings from scholarships and your campus jobs. You pay us, we sign a release, and we'll do your little PR reconciliation for your job. I felt like I'd entered an alternate reality. You want me to pay you $50,000 so you'll pretend to support me? We want compensation for what you've cost us, Mom said coldly. Amanda was smiling slightly, still scrolling through her phone. She seemed to be enjoying this. I stood up. I need to think about this. You have 48 hours, Dad said. After that, Bill files the lawsuit. I walked out of that house shaking with rage and disbelief. I drove back to Cambridge in a daze, barely remembering the trip. Tyler found me sitting in our apartment at midnight, staring at nothing. How'd it go? He asked. They want $50,000, or they're suing me for defamation. Tyler's jaw dropped. That's extortion. Tell that to their lawyer. My phone rang. Amanda. Against my better judgment, I answered. Murray? Her voice was soft, almost sweet. I'm so sorry about earlier. Mom and Dad are being ridiculous. The shift in tone was jarring. Really? Yeah. Look, I know I wasn't great today, but I've been thinking. This whole situation is messed up. You shouldn't have to pay them anything. That's crazy. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Can we meet tomorrow? Just us? I want to help you figure this out. Maybe I can talk to them, convince them to drop this whole lawsuit thing. You do that? You're my brother, she said. I should have been there for you before. Let me make it right. There's a cafe near Rittenhouse Square. How about lunch at one? I agreed, feeling hopeful for the first time in days. The next afternoon, I took the train back to Philadelphia. The cafe was upscale. the kind of place Amanda loved. She was already there, wearing designer sunglasses and a stylish dress, drinking an iced latte. She hugged me when I arrived, which surprised me. "I'm glad you came." We ordered food and talked. She seemed genuinely sympathetic at first, asking about Harvard, about my job situation, about how I was handling everything. I started to relax. Then her tone shifted. "So I've been thinking," Amanda said. "This whole viral speech thing, it's actually an opportunity. For both of us." "What do you mean?" She pulled out her phone and showed me an Instagram account. It had a professional-looking header, Amanda Murphy, Lifestyle and Family Insights. The bio read, "Sister to Harvard valedictorian, sharing our journey." "I started this 3 days ago," she said. "I already have 20,000 followers. People are fascinated by our story." I felt cold. Our story? Think about it, Murray. You're famous right now. I can leverage that. I'm posting about being a supportive sister to a successful sibling, about family dynamics, about overcoming challenges. Brands are already reaching out about sponsorships. "You're monetizing my graduation speech?" "Our family situation," she corrected. "And I want you involved. Do some joint content with me. Appear in my posts. Maybe we do a YouTube channel together. We could make serious money, Murray. I'm talking 6 figures within a year if we play this right." I stared at her. "Are you insane? I just told you my job is on the line because of this publicity, and you want me to make more content." Her expression hardened. "I'm offering you an opportunity. This could be good for both of us." "No, Amanda. Absolutely not. I want my life back, not more attention." She set down her latte carefully. "That's disappointing. I'm sorry if wanting privacy disappoints you. Here's the thing, Murray." Her voice went cold. "I've already been contacted by producers from several media outlets. They want to interview me about you, about what you were really like growing up, about whether your speech was truthful or exaggerated." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I'm saying I have a story to tell. I can tell the version where I defend you, support you, confirm everything you said, or I can tell a different version, one where you were actually kind of a difficult, resentful kid who made our childhood miserable, where you always resented me for being more socially successful, where this speech was revenge, not truth. You'd lie about me? I'd share my perspective. I have texts, Murray, photos of us as kids, where you look angry or distant. I can contextualize them however I want, and people will believe me, because I'm the sympathetic sister who's being harassed online because of what you said." I felt sick. "Why would you do this?" "Because you're being selfish," she snapped. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you're too proud to see it. Help me build this brand, or I tell my version of our story. Your choice." I stood up. "We're done here." "You have until Friday," she called after me as I walked out. "That's when I do the interview with Rise and Shine America. I've already said yes. The question is whether I'm defending you or burying you." I made it to the train station before my hands stopped shaking. That evening, I got an email that confirmed Amanda wasn't bluffing. It was from a producer at Rise and Shine America, a major national morning show. They'd booked Amanda for a segment on family dynamics in the social media age. They were inviting me to participate, but the tone made clear they'd already decided on their angle. I was going to be the villain. Tyler found me at my laptop, reading the email for the 5th time. "She's really doing this." "Looks like it. What are you going to do?" I had no idea. The next 3 days passed in a blur of panic and helplessness. I called the Rise and Shine America producer, trying to explain my side, but she was polite yet dismissive. "We'd love to include your perspective, Murray, but Amanda's already confirmed and we need to move forward with the segment as planned." I couldn't afford to hire a lawyer to send a cease and desist. A consultation alone cost $300 an hour, and the attorney I spoke to said I'd need to retain them for at least $15,000 up front to take any real action. My savings from scholarships and part-time work totaled around $60,000, but that was supposed to be my safety net for moving to my new job. First and last month's rent, furniture, everything. I was trapped. My parents wanted $50,000. A lawyer would cost $15,000, and I still needed money to live. The morning show segment aired on a Thursday. Tyler and I watched it together in our apartment, both of us silent and tense. Amanda looked perfect on camera. She wore a soft pink sweater, minimal makeup, her hair styled in loose waves. She appeared vulnerable, sympathetic, slightly wounded. The host, Melissa Cameron, introduced her with concern. "You're the sister of Murray Murphy, the Harvard valedictorian whose emotional graduation speech went viral. That speech painted a picture of family neglect. You're here to share your perspective." Amanda nodded, her eyes already glistening with tears. "Thank you for having me, Melissa. This has been incredibly difficult. Tell us about your brother." Amanda took a breath. "Murray and I grew up together in a loving home in Philadelphia. Our parents worked hard to provide for us, but Murray always struggled with resentment. He was very academic, very serious, and I think he felt that our parents didn't value his achievements the same way they valued my more social, extroverted personality." "So you're saying the neglect he described wasn't real?" "I'm saying Murray has always seen things through a lens of competition. When our parents paid for my college, it was because I needed that support. Murray earned scholarships. He was brilliant. But instead of being proud of his independence, he resented that I needed help. He kept score of everything." She showed photos on camera, one from a family Christmas where I was sitting apart from everyone, looking serious. "This is typical Murray," Amanda said, "always separating himself, then blaming us for the distance he created." Another photo from Amanda's high school graduation, where I was in the background, unsmiling. "He couldn't even be happy for me at my own graduation. Our parents noticed. It hurt them." Melissa nodded sympathetically. "That must have been hard for the family." "It was. And now this speech." "Melissa, our parents are devastated. They missed his Harvard graduation because they were exhausted. My mom has a demanding career in real estate. My dad works 60-hour weeks. They're not perfect, but they're not monsters. Yet Murray chose to paint them that way on national television, knowing it would go viral. Why do you think he did that?" Amanda's voice broke slightly. "I think Murray has carried this resentment for so long that he finally found a platform big enough to hurt them. It's revenge. It's calculated. And honestly, it's scary. We're his family, and he's willing to destroy us publicly for attention." "Have you spoken to him since the speech?" "I've tried. He won't take my calls. He won't engage. I just hope he gets the help he needs. We love him. We'll always love him. But we can't enable this kind of harmful behavior." The segment ended with Melissa thanking Amanda and encouraging viewers to think critically about viral moments and the stories we don't see. Within an hour, the narrative had flipped completely. Twitter exploded. "So the Harvard grad was actually the problem all along? His sister seems genuinely hurt. Maybe we were too quick to judge the parents." Classic case of an entitled kid trashing his family for sympathy. Think pieces appeared on news sites. When success breeds cruelty, the dark side of achievement culture. Harvard valedictorian's viral speech, a cautionary tale about public shaming. Someone started a hashtag Team Amanda. My phone rang at 11 in the morning. Janet Carlson from Whitman and Associates. "Murray, I just watched Rise and Shine America." I closed my eyes. "Janet, that wasn't true. She's lying." Richard Peterson called our managing partner again. He specifically requested that we withdraw your offer. "I'm sorry, Murray. The firm can't be associated with this controversy. Your employment offer is officially rescinded." The line went dead. I'd lost my job before it even started. Tyler was furious on my behalf. "This is insane. You have to fight back. Tell your story. Who's going to listen?" Amanda looked like a victim up there. "People believe her. Then we make them believe you." But I felt paralyzed. Everything I'd worked for was crumbling. My reputation was destroyed. My family was coordinating a systematic campaign against me, and I had no resources to fight back. A certified letter arrived the next day. I signed for it with shaking hands. Inside was a formal notice of intent to file a defamation lawsuit. My parents were suing me for $200,000 in damages. The letter included a settlement offer, They'd drop to $50,000 if I signed a non-disclosure agreement. Issued a public apology, stating my speech was exaggerated and unfair, and agreed to never speak about them publicly again. I had 1 week to respond. Attached to the legal papers was a printed article from a tabloid website. The headline read, "Did Harvard valedictorian plagiarize his viral speech?" The article cited anonymous sources claiming similarities between my speech and other graduation addresses. It showed side-by-side comparisons that were clearly reaching, taking common phrases and making them seem suspicious. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt was planted. The article quoted an education expert saying, "If these allegations are true, Harvard should investigate. Academic integrity is paramount." I showed Tyler. "They're trying to destroy my degree now. Everything I am." "This is coordinated," Tyler said. "Your family is behind this. They have to be." I sat on our worn couch, surrounded by moving boxes I'd started packing for a job I no longer had, and felt the full weight of the situation crush down on me. I had no job. I was facing a lawsuit I couldn't afford to fight. My academic integrity was being questioned. My family had weaponized my moment of vulnerability and turned the entire world against me. I'd never felt so utterly defeated in my life. I barely slept for 3 days. I lay awake scrolling through vicious comments about myself online, reading article after article painting me as an ungrateful, manipulative son who'd betrayed his loving family for attention. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amanda on that morning show, her perfectly performed tears, her calculated lies. Tyler finally physically took my phone away on the 3rd night. "You're destroying yourself. This has to stop." "What's the point?" I asked. "It's over. Everything's over." "No," Tyler said firmly. "It's not. You're going to fight this." "With what?" "I can't afford a lawyer. I don't have a PR team. Amanda has the media on her side. My parents have money and a lawyer. I have nothing." "You have the truth," Tyler said. "And I know someone who might help." Tyler was finishing his first year of law school. He'd mentioned a professor he admired, Helen Baxter, who taught media law and did some private practice on the side. Tyler texted her that night, explaining the situation in brief terms. She responded the next morning. "Come to my office, 2 o'clock. Helen Baxter's office was in a building near Boston Common. She was in her mid-40s, with graying hair pulled into a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a Harvard Law sweatshirt. Her desk was covered with case files and legal journals. "Sit," she said, gesturing to chairs across from her desk. Tyler gave me the basics. "Walk me through everything, from the beginning." I told her the whole story, the graduation, the speech, the viral moment, my parents' lawsuit threat, Amanda's betrayal, the morning show, losing my job, the plagiarism accusations. Everything. Helen listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. "You know what they're doing is extortion, right?" she said. "Threatening a lawsuit to extract money? That's textbook. Can I prove it? Maybe. Do you have documentation? Anything that shows the pattern of behavior you described in your speech?" I thought about it. "I have boxes of stuff in storage, from childhood, from high school. I never throw anything away." "Get those boxes," Helen said. "Everything. We need to build your defense, and potentially a counterattack." Over the next week, Tyler and I drove to the storage unit in Cambridge, where I kept my life in boxes. We hauled everything back to our apartment and sorted through years of accumulated memories. What we found was damning. Email after email from my parents declining to attend my events. "Can't make your academic awards night. Have to help Amanda with her sorority stuff. Won't be at your robotics competition finals. Amanda has a dance recital." Financial records I'd saved showed the full scope of the inequality. A spreadsheet my parents had made for tax purposes showed they'd spent $160,000 on Amanda's college education at a private school. My contribution, $0. Text messages I'd screenshotted over the years told their own story. My mother texting me at age 18, "Can't help you move into your dorm tomorrow. Amanda needs furniture shopping for her apartment." My father's text from my 20th birthday, Sorry we can't make your birthday dinner, taking Amanda to New York for the weekend. Photos from family vacations I wasn't invited to. Florida, California, Colorado. Always the three of them. A birthday card from when I was 16. My father had written inside, Murray, hoping this year you'll give us something to celebrate. We compiled everything, created folders, organized chronologically, built a timeline that showed 23 years of systematic favoritism and neglect. Helen reviewed it all. She spent hours going through every document, every photo, every message. When she finished, she looked up at me with something like anger in her eyes. This isn't just a defense, she said. This is a countersuit. What your parents did could constitute intentional infliction of emotional distress. What Amanda did with that morning show interview, if we can prove she knew she was lying, that's defamation. And demanding money not to sue you, that's extortion. Can we win? Possibly. But Murray, I need you to understand something. Fighting this will be expensive, time-consuming. It will get uglier before it gets better. Your family will retaliate. Are you prepared for that? I thought about my destroyed reputation, my lost job, my parents demanding $50,000, Amanda performing tears on television while destroying me. I thought about years of being invisible, of achieving extraordinary things to empty rooms, of believing maybe I was the problem. I'm prepared, I said. Then we fight, Helen said. But we need funding. I can do some of this pro bono because this case interests me academically, but we'll need resources for filing fees, court costs, expert witnesses if it goes to trial. Do you have anything you can use? I had my $60,000 in savings. It was supposed to be my future. But what future did I have if I let this stand? I'll use my savings, I said. Helen nodded. Okay, let's build your case. We spent the next 2 days preparing. Helen drafted a response to my parents' lawsuit that not only defended against their claims but filed counterclaims for emotional distress and abuse. She prepared a cease and desist letter for Amanda regarding her media statements. Then my phone rang with an unknown California number. I almost didn't answer. Murray Murphy? The voice was male, confident, friendly. Yes? This is Marcus Webb. I'm the CEO of Elevation Tech. We're a startup in Silicon Valley working on educational technology platforms. I had no idea why a CEO was calling me. Okay? I saw your Harvard speech, the original one, not the circus that came after. I was moved by it. I've been following what's happened to you since. I don't believe your sister's version of events. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Thank you. That means a lot. I'm calling because Elevation Tech is hiring for our strategy team. We need smart people who understand education, who have real resilience. I think you'd be a good fit. I'd like to interview you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want to interview me? After everything? I want to interview the guy who gave that original speech, Marcus said. But here's my situation. My company is growing fast. We're about to do a major funding round. I can't afford controversy right now. If I hire you while this lawsuit and media situation is still active, it could reflect badly on the company. My hope deflated. So you can't hire me. Not yet. But I want to help you clear your name. My company has a top-tier PR firm on retainer. Keller Communications. They're the best in the business. I'll give you access to them, no charge, if you're serious about fighting this. Why would you do that? Because I was the invisible kid too, Marcus said quietly. I know what it feels like. And because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted because your family is terrible. Fix this situation, clear your name, and then let's talk about you joining Elevation Tech. After I hung up, Tyler looked at me. Was that real? I think so. So what now? I looked at the evidence spread across our apartment. The documentation of neglect. The timeline of favoritism. The proof that my speech was true. Now we fight back, I said. Helen worked with Keller Communications to develop a strategy. The PR firm assigned me a consultant named David Park, who specialized in reputation crisis management. David reviewed everything, all the evidence, all the media coverage, all the statements from my family. They've built a narrative, David said. We need to dismantle it piece by piece, methodically. Let the facts speak for themselves. We decided on a multi-pronged approach. First, I'd write a detailed blog post titled, "The Truth About My Harvard Speech," that laid out the full story with scanned documentation. Every claim would be supported by evidence. No emotional manipulation, just facts. Second, David would pitch the story to credible journalists, not tabloids. We needed serious outlets that would do real reporting, not sensationalism. Third, Helen would file our counterclaims against my parents and send cease and desist letters to Amanda. "We do this all at once," David said. "Hit them before they can coordinate another response." I spent 2 days writing the blog post. I was careful, measured, factual. I included scanned images of emails, text messages, financial records. I showed the birthday card with my father's hurtful message. I provided the timeline of missed events, alongside proof of my achievements, those events celebrated. I wrote about my childhood and teenage years with clinical detail. How I learned early that my accomplishments didn't matter as much as Amanda's social life. How I internalized the message that I was less valuable. How I worked 3 jobs in college not just for money but because I needed to prove I could survive without them. I explained why I gave that speech, and why I didn't name my parents directly. Because I was speaking a universal truth about conditional love, not seeking revenge. Then I addressed Amanda's morning show appearance and the subsequent media coverage, methodically pointing out the inconsistencies in her story and providing evidence that contradicted her claims. David reviewed it, made minor suggestions, and approved it. Helen reviewed it from a legal standpoint to ensure nothing could be used against us. Then we posted it on a simple website with my name and made it live. David pitched the story to The Atlantic, the Boston Globe, and NPR. Within 12 hours, all 3 wanted to cover it. The Atlantic ran a long-form piece titled, "When Viral Moments Become Family Warfare, the Murray Murphy Case." They interviewed educational experts, family therapists, and legal scholars. They reviewed the evidence I'd provided. Their conclusion was damning to my parents and sister. The Boston Globe did a local angle, interviewing my high school teachers and counselors who confirmed that I'd been an exceptional student with virtually no family support. NPR did a radio segment that included audio of my original speech, alongside portions of Amanda's interview, letting listeners hear the tonal differences, the authenticity in my voice versus the performance in hers. Within 48 hours, the narrative began to shift again. Comments, sections filled with people apologizing. "I was wrong about Murray Murphy. I can't believe we all fell for his sister's act. Those receipts don't lie." But my family wasn't finished. They escalated dramatically. My parents filed an emergency restraining order in Philadelphia County Court, claiming they feared for their safety. Their filing stated that I'd made threatening statements and that my blog post constituted harassment. They gave interviews to local Philadelphia news stations, my mother crying on camera, my father looking drawn and frightened. "We're terrified of our own son," my mother said. "Harvard changed him. We don't recognize him anymore." Amanda went further. She posted on Instagram that I'd shown up at her apartment in a rage 3 days prior, banging on her door, screaming threats. She included a photo of her apartment door with a timestamp. It was completely fabricated. I was in Cambridge 3 days ago, with witnesses and time-stamped photos from a study group meeting to prove it. But the accusation made headlines before anyone fact-checked. Local Philadelphia news ran with it. Harvard graduate's family files restraining order, fears violent retaliation. The coverage was sympathetic to my parents, portraying them as victims of their son's psychological breakdown. Helen immediately filed emergency motions to dismiss the restraining order, but the court scheduled a hearing. If the judge granted it, even temporarily, the damage to my credibility would be devastating. Marcus Webb, from Elevation Tech, called me. "I'm seeing the news from Philadelphia. What's happening?" "They're lying," I said. "All of it. I can prove I wasn't anywhere near Amanda's apartment." "I believe you," Marcus said. "But this is getting messy fast. I need you to win this hearing." The pressure was immense. The hearing was set for 3 days later in Philadelphia County Court. Helen prepared aggressively, pulling together my alibi evidence, witness statements from Tyler and my study group, GPS data from my phone showing I was in Cambridge. We drove to Philadelphia the night before. Helen wanted to be overprepared. We stayed at a hotel near the courthouse and reviewed everything until 2 in the morning. The courtroom the next day was packed. Local media filled the gallery. My parents sat with their lawyer, Bill Henderson, looking appropriately worried and victimized. Amanda was there too, wearing minimal makeup, designed to look stressed and frightened. The judge was Harold Martinez, a man in his 60s with a reputation for being traditional and skeptical of young people. Helen had warned me he might not be sympathetic to an Ivy League graduate. Bill Henderson presented their case first. He showed the blog post, characterizing it as an online attack designed to destroy his parents' reputations. He played clips from Amanda's Instagram story about my alleged visit to her apartment. He presented statements from neighbors who claimed they'd heard shouting. My mother testified. She cried on the stand, talking about how afraid she was. He's been increasingly unstable. After that speech, the anger just grew. We don't feel safe. My father testified about receiving disturbing text messages from me. When pressed to provide them, he offered messages that were clearly just me asking to meet and talk. Amanda testified last. She was convincing, describing a brother who'd always been volatile and who'd become obsessed with punishing the family. She said my unexpected visit to her apartment was terrifying. Then Helen began our defense. She presented my alibi evidence, photos from the study group with timestamps showing me in Cambridge when I supposedly visited Amanda's apartment in Philadelphia, GPS data from my phone, witness statements from Tyler and 3 classmates. She showed the judge our documentation, the emails, the text messages, the financial records. Everything that proved my speech was truthful. She methodically dismantled each of my family's claims, showing inconsistencies, providing counter-evidence, demonstrating that this was a coordinated effort to silence me. The judge looked skeptical but was listening. Then the courtroom doors opened. Tyler rushed in, followed by Helen's law school colleague. They looked flustered but excited. "Your Honor," Helen said, "I apologize for the interruption, but we've just obtained critical evidence." Judge Martinez frowned. "This is highly irregular. I understand, but this directly impacts the credibility of the restraining order petition." The judge gestured for her to proceed. Helen approached the bench with papers. "These are email exchanges between Amanda Murphy and a podcast production company called Narrative Unlimited. We obtained them through legal channels this morning." She provided copies to the judge and to Bill Henderson. I watched Amanda's face go pale. Helen read from the emails. "This is from Amanda Murphy to a producer at Narrative Unlimited, dated 6 days ago. Quote, I know he's not lying about how they treated him, but we can spin this. People love family drama. I can make myself the sympathetic figure. My parents are willing to play along if the money's right." End quote. The courtroom erupted. Judge Martinez slammed his gavel. Helen continued. "There's more, Your Honor. Amanda was negotiating a deal for a limited podcast series called My Brother's Betrayal. The production company was going to pay her $75,000 for exclusive rights to her story. These emails show she knew Murray's speech was truthful but coordinated with their parents to create a false narrative for profit." Bill Henderson was on his feet. "Objection. This is outrageous. Those emails are taken out of context." "The context is quite clear," Helen said. "Amanda Murphy admits in writing that her brother wasn't lying, then proceeds to lie about him publicly and coordinate legal action against him. That's conspiracy and fraud." Judge Martinez read through the emails carefully. His expression grew increasingly stern. "Miss Murphy," he said, looking at Amanda, "did you write these emails?" Amanda looked like she might be sick. "I can explain. Yes or no?" "Yes, but..." "And you testified under oath that your brother's speech was false and that you feared for your safety?" "It's more complicated than..." "Yes or no, Miss Murphy?" Amanda's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She looked at the judge. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination." The courtroom erupted again. Judge Martinez's face darkened. "Counselor Henderson, your clients have wasted this court's time with what appears to be a coordinated scheme to defame and extort the respondent. The restraining order petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of potential perjury and fraud. He looked at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Your son achieved something extraordinary, and instead of supporting him, you tried to profit from destroying him. Get out of my courtroom. The gavel came down with finality. My parents and Amanda left surrounded by reporters, shouting questions. Bill Henderson looked humiliated, gathering his papers quickly and avoiding eye contact. Helen turned to me. We won. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed us. Helen made a brief statement about truth prevailing and justice being served. I said nothing, still processing what had just happened. Tyler hugged me on the courthouse steps. It's over, man. You won. But I knew it wasn't completely over. There was still the defamation lawsuit, still my destroyed reputation to rebuild, still the job situation to resolve. Still, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The fallout from the courtroom revelation was swift and brutal for my family. Within 24 hours, Narrative Unlimited publicly canceled Amanda's podcast deal and released a statement distancing themselves from her. Her Instagram sponsors dropped her immediately. Brands that had sent her products demanded them back or threatened legal action. Her follower count plummeted from 23,000 to 6,000 as people abandoned her in waves. The think pieces that had condemned me now turned on my family. The real villains in the Murray Murphy story. How Amanda Murphy weaponized victimhood for profit. Parents who sue their children. When family becomes transaction. My parents' defamation lawsuit collapsed. Helen filed a motion to dismiss based on the courtroom evidence, and the judge granted it with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile. More than that, the judge ordered them to pay my legal fees, nearly $30,000 that Helen had tracked meticulously. My father's company, Barrett Pharmaceuticals, launched an internal review after the story made national news. They didn't fire him, but his reputation there was damaged beyond repair. My mother lost several major real estate clients, who felt betrayed by what they'd learned about her character. The plagiarism accusations evaporated under scrutiny. Harvard issued a statement supporting me, saying they'd reviewed the claims and found them baseless. The tabloid that ran the original story posted a quiet retraction buried on their website. Helen advised me that I had grounds for a substantial countersuit against my parents for intentional infliction of emotional distress and against Amanda for defamation. We could potentially win hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. I thought about it for 3 days. Tyler pushed me to go for it. Make them pay. They deserve it. But I realized something. I didn't want their money. I didn't want to spend more months or years entangled with them in legal battles. I didn't want them to have any more space in my life at all. I told Helen I wanted to offer a settlement. You sure? She asked. We could win big. I'm sure. Helen drafted the terms. I would drop all counterclaims on 3 conditions. First, my parents had to agree to family therapy with a licensed professional for a minimum of 6 months, whether I chose to participate or not. They needed to confront what they'd done, even if I wasn't there to hear it. Second, they had to sign a legal agreement never to contact me again unless I initiated contact first. Third, they had to never discuss me publicly in any forum, media, social media, or otherwise. Amanda had to sign a similar agreement and issue a public apology admitting she'd lied. My parents' lawyer called Helen within hours. They agreed to everything. Amanda's public apology appeared on Instagram 2 days later. It was brief, clearly written by a lawyer, and completely hollow. I apologize for statements I made that were not truthful. I regret the harm caused. No elaboration, no real accountability, but it was public, and it was something. Marcus Webb called me on a Wednesday morning in late June. I've been following everything. The judge's ruling, your family backing down. I'm impressed with how you handled this. Thank you. The job offer at Elevation Tech is officially back on the table. We'd like you to start in August as originally planned. And because you've been through hell, we're including a signing bonus of $20,000 and covering your relocation costs to California. I accepted without hesitation. The major media outlets that initially ran negative stories about me issued corrections and updates. Several apologized directly for not vetting Amanda's claims more carefully. The Atlantic did a follow-up piece titled The Redemption of Murray Murphy that focused on how easily public opinion could be manipulated and how important verification was in the social media age. I returned to Cambridge to pack up my apartment and prepare for the move west. Tyler helped me sort through the last of my belongings. We talked about the past year, about Harvard, about everything that had happened since graduation. "You know what the crazy thing is?" I said. "If my parents had just come to my graduation, none of this would have happened. Or if they'd apologized after," Tyler added. "They were never going to apologize. That would require seeing me as a person who deserved one." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "Do you think you'll ever talk to them again?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. But not because I need them to validate me anymore. That's the difference." On my last night in Cambridge, I walked through Harvard Yard alone. The campus was quieter in summer, fewer students, fewer tourists. I stood in front of Memorial Church where I'd given my speech 6 weeks earlier. It felt like a lifetime ago. My phone buzzed. An email from Harvard Alumni Relations. They wanted to feature my story in the upcoming alumni magazine as part of a series on resilience and integrity in the face of adversity. The proposed title was The Speech That Changed Everything. I smiled and saved the email to respond to later. Janet Carlson from Whitman & Associates sent me a message too. Richard Peterson's company had been exposed in an unrelated tax fraud scandal. Peterson resigned in disgrace, and his media company was being sold off in pieces. Janet said the firm no longer needed to appease him, and if I was ever interested in consulting in a few years, they'd love to reconnect. I wrote back politely declining. I'd moved on. Whitman & Associates represented a version of success I didn't want anymore, one where truth could be sacrificed for client relationships, where integrity was negotiable. Tyler drove me to the airport on a sunny August morning. We'd been roommates for 4 years, best friends through everything. "You're going to kill it in California," he said at departures. "Come visit once you finish law school," I told him. "Elevation Tech is always hiring lawyers." We hugged, and I headed to my gate. On the plane, as we climbed through clouds over Boston, I thought about the path that had led here, the neglect and loneliness of my childhood, the silent determination that carried me through high school and college, the moment I stood on that graduation stage and told my truth. I thought about the price I'd paid for that honesty, the job I lost, the reputation destroyed, the family that tried to break me completely rather than admit their failures. But I also thought about the unexpected allies. Tyler, who stood by me when it would have been easier to distance himself. Helen, who saw injustice and decided to fight. Marcus, who believed in me when my career seemed destroyed. Even the strangers on social media who, after seeing the evidence, apologized for judging too quickly. I realized something important. My parents' absence at graduation wasn't the tragedy I thought it was. Their absence was actually the final proof that I didn't need them anymore. I'd made it to Harvard, graduated as valedictorian, and built a future entirely on my own strength. They didn't make me. They just failed to break me. The speech went viral because it touched people who'd felt invisible, who'd been the wrong child, who'd achieved extraordinary things in empty rooms. It mattered because it was true, and truth resonates even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, my parents finally called after they saw it on television. But by then, their calls meant nothing. Their panic and damage control showed me exactly who they were. People more concerned with their image than their son's pain. I learned that family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the roommate who helps you gather evidence at 2 in the morning. The professor who takes your case pro bono because she believes in justice. The CEO who offers help when you're at your lowest because he sees himself in your struggle. The woman next to me on the plane asked what I was flying to San Francisco for. "Starting a new job," I said. "Fresh start." She smiled. "Good for you." The plane leveled off above the clouds, heading west toward a future I'd built myself, toward a life free from people who saw me as invisible. My phone had 1 bar of airplane Wi-Fi. A text from Tyler came through. "You did it. I'm proud of you." I texted back. "We did it," because that was the truth too. I didn't win alone. I won because when my blood family abandoned me, I found people who chose to stand with me. I won because I refused to let their narrative become my reality. I won because I fought for myself when nobody else would. The flight attendant came by with drinks. I ordered ginger ale and looked out at the endless sky. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I wrote that graduation speech. I thought maybe my parents would hear it, feel some shame, reach out with an apology. I thought exposure would lead to reconciliation. Instead, exposure led to war. And winning the war meant accepting that reconciliation might never come, and learning to be okay with that. Some families heal, some families don't. Mine didn't, but I did, and that was enough. The captain announced we'd be landing in San Francisco in 4 hours. 4 hours until my new life officially began. 4 hours until I stepped off this plane as someone who'd survived his family's attempt to destroy him and came out stronger. I closed my eyes and let myself feel genuinely proud for the first time in weeks. Proud of the speech I gave, proud of the fight I waged, proud of the person I'd become despite everything working against me. When we landed, I grabbed my carry-on and walked into the California sunshine. Marcus Webb had sent a car to pick me up. The driver held a sign with my name on it. "Welcome to San Francisco, Mr. Murphy," he said. "Thank you," I said. "It's good to be here." And I meant it. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace with family and standing up for your own truth? Have you been the invisible child, the one whose achievements went unnoticed while someone else got all the attention and support? How did you handle it? Did you stay silent, or did you speak up? And what about forgiveness? Do you think some actions are too harmful to forgive, or do you believe families should always find a way back to each other no matter what? I'm curious about your stories, your perspectives, your own experiences with family dynamics that weren't what they should have been. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's struggling with similar choices. If this story resonated with you, if you felt invisible or undervalued or caught between honesty and family loyalty, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories. And maybe someone needs to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges, about the courage it takes to stand up for yourself, and about finding your own strength when the people who should support you won't. And please share this story. You might have a friend, a coworker, a family member who's living through something similar right now. They might need to know that speaking your truth can be painful, but that silence is often more painful in the long run. They might need to hear that it's possible to survive your family's worst and still build something beautiful on the other side. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for engaging, for caring about what happens to people you've never met but whose struggles might mirror your own. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're facing, you find the courage to be honest about your own life, the strength to fight for your own worth, and the wisdom to know that your value isn't determined by people who refuse to see it. Take care of yourselves, stand up for yourselves, and remember that being invisible to the wrong people just means you're saving your light for the ones who'll actually appreciate it. Until next time.